Today, we start a new chapter. Please do not think that since we have left fractions, that they are behind us forever. They don't go away. They're still here today. They want to come out and play. And I don't really care what you say. We're talking about decimal numbers. The number system that we use is based on powers of 10. When we talked about place values before, if I gave you this number, every number here had its own place value, right? Had its own meaning. So this would be my 1 spot. This would be for my tens, right? This is 100s, thousands, 10,000s. Do y'all agree? Every step that I move across here increases by a factor of 10. It keeps multiplying times 10 as I go out here. Do y'all agree? Well, imagine if you go to the right side. 10,000 divided by 10 is 1,000. Divided by 10 is 100. Divided by 10 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. What's going to happen if I keep moving to the right? Well, we know from our experiences that it's decimals, right? But it would also be, what's 1 divided by 10? See, you know decimals, right? You want to say this. Okay, so this is going to be, let's say, 3. If I do this, I multiply times 10 every time I went out this way, right? But then I said I'm dividing by 10 every time I move out this way. What's 1 divided by 10? It's 1 over 10, right? If you divided by 10 again, you'd have 1/100th. This would be 1,000th, 1/10,000th, 1/100,000th. Every time you move left or right across a number, each spot changes by a factor of 10. You're either multiplying or dividing by 10. You multiply by 10 as you go to the left. You divide by 10 as you go to the right. So when we have decimals, and we see decimals, right? If you see money, if you ever buy anything, yes, you see decimals. You ever buy gas? Okay, gas is really screwed up decimals. Because if you look at the price of gas, gas includes not only decimals but fractions in the same number. Does that not bother you guys? Because see, when you buy gas, what is gas? Gas is $3.11, and they always throw that stupid number up there, right? But of course, it doesn't really show up that way at the pump because the pumps are mostly digital now, unless you go into some backwoods town where they still, like, they actually come out and pump the gas for you. Ever had that happen? No. Yeah, back when they were asking, do you want leaded or unleaded?
Yeah.
Good old days. So when we see this at the pump, it's 3.119, right? This is a decimal that we see in the real world. Do you guys see this? Or is it just me? Am I the only one who pays attention to numbers? You guys drive cars, don't you? Some of you? Okay. Or maybe on your scooter. And maybe on your scooter, you see that, oh, I have driven 92.3 miles. What does that mean? Does it mean anything to you? Well, it just means it's a little bit more than 92 miles. What does it mean? What does that mean? We say 92.3, but what does it really mean? That really means 92 and 3/10. So that means you've driven 92 miles and then 3/10 of another mile. Do you agree? So I know you don't like this, but that means that your decimal is a fraction. It's part of a whole. How does that make you feel? Good? How does it make you feel, Tim? It's good. Tim says it's good, so it's got to be good for all of us. So, 10th, 100th, 1000th, and so on. Is everybody with me on the numbering system that we have here? The hard part is actually reading and writing this, which I'm not a big fan of, but whatever. If I were to ask you to write the following number using words, now you would probably read this and say 3.459 because we were kind of lazy, right? If you were going to read this and write it the correct way, you would say this is 3. When you have the decimal, this decimal is when you use the word and. So 3 and. Now here's the easy part. How do you read this number? If there were no decimal and I gave you this number, how would you read that? You would say 450. Really? Really? 450. Now here's what we don't say. We don't say 459. We don't say 459. We say 459. I know we don't. We get lazy when we speak, right? We say things like gonna, wanna, I'ma ace this test. I'ma? I thought that was the name of your grandma. So we would read this as 459. Now, but it's not 3 and 459. It's 459, but then you have to look at the decimal piece that you have here. This goes all the way out to what decimal spot? To the thousandths. So 3 and 459 thousandths. We want to make this as difficult as possible for non-native English speakers, evidently. So it's the word thousand, but then you tack on the THS. Welcome to our country. If I have, how did I read that number, the 92.3? Lazily, we will say 92.3. More precisely, we would write what? $92. And, well, the number after the decimal here is just 3. So 92 and 3, what? Tenths. So it would be like writing the word 10, but then you tack on the THS. So 92 and 3 tenths. Gabby, you okay over there? Well, having too much nitrous oxide, you're laughing it up. Well, now it's not like the Pillsbury Doughboy, so that's a little bit different. You guys okay with that? Now I'm going to throw you off. You're going to miss this one. Not because I want you to. I kind of do. I'm evil. Remember that? Don't let anybody tell you differently. How would you read this? Okay, yeah, you're just reading the symbols and the numbers. But if we were going to write this as a number precisely, if you don't have any whole pieces out here, because I have 0, we don't need to say 0 and. We just write the decimal part that we have here. So if I were to look at the decimal number, the decimal part, how would you write this number? Would you say 0 at the beginning? No. No. How would you write this number? 3,000. 271, right? So let's write that. So this is 3,000, comma, well, so now I'm confused. 3,271 what? How far out did I go here? What was that? 100 thousandths. Are you sure? Here's a way to check this. If you're looking at the decimal part, how many decimal places do I have out here? How far out did I go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places, right?
Yes.
So if you're looking at this guy as a decimal, this is how many decimal places? 5, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. However many decimal places is how many zeros you would have. So when there's 1 decimal place, that's tenths. 2 decimal places, that would be 2 zeros, so that's hundredths. 3 would be 3 zeros, so that's thousandths. So this is 100 thousandths. And whenever you do this, you would hyphenate it. 100 thousands. It's very non-friendly. What do you guys think about that? Hooray for decimals? Decimals make things easy because it's all multiples of 10, right? Well, we're going to see that coming up later as we're going to be converting these numbers to fractions.